Welcome to Excel Magic Trick number 1029. Hey, if you want to download this workbook, click on the link below the video. Hey, in the last video, 1028, we saw how to look up a text item that existed on another sheet, and there was many duplicates in the column A. And what we want to do is figure out the row number and then make a hyperlink. Well, in this video, I shouldn't have this here. I'll talk about that in just a second. We want to take exactly what we did there, but we want to notice that if I select from the drop-down Model Analysis, there are 48 rows, or 48 occurrences of those in row numbers, which we use to build our hyperlink. But in this case, if we select Fixed Effects, well, there's a lot more row numbers. It just goes on and on and on, down to 1,050 almost, right? And so what we want is we want to be able to select Mixed Model Analysis and not have the num error show up. All right, so there's two ways we could do this. You never want to use the IFERROR function if there's another logical test that you could run to determine whether to show a blank or run the formula. Let's just look at IFERROR. And you see this a lot. People use IFERROR on big array formulas. But the problem is, in order to determine whether there's an error or not, you have to run the whole array formula. So in this case, we have over 1,000 rows where the array formula has to run, when in fact for mixed model analysis, there's only 48 of them. So watch this. Value if error, I type a comma and I put double quote. That's the syntax for show nothing. It's a null text string. So if error, control, oops. This is an array formula because we have an array operation in this logical test argument. So you have to use Control Shift and Enter. So I'm going to double click and send this down. Let's just go down to row 48. Right here, IFERROR had to run the entire array formula to determine whether or not to put that double quote. Control down arrow. Wow. So it had to run it 1,000 times when it didn't really have to. And that dramatically increases formula calculation time, especially for array formula. So if I select this, it's going to be really, really, really slow. It's coming. It's coming. There we go. So in order to speed it up, and I'm not going to time anything in here. In fact, in the book Control Shift Enter, I do some timings between IFERROR and running a regular if and have some great dramatic results. I also show you some examples when it's OK to use IFERROR. But in this case, forget it. This array formula, I just don't want to do that. I'm just going to run the if. Because what can I do? I can say, oh, wait a second, escape. I'm first going to count how many fixed effects there are. So I simply use the count if. This is a helper cell that will only run this big array once. So it's going to be all, that's the sheet, exclamation point, that's the syntax for sheet reference, A1 colon A35,000, comma, and then the criteria is whatever's in cell A1. All right, so now there's 1,008. If I choose mixed model, there's only 48, right? Ooh, that's slow. So now I can come here, and now I have a trigger. When I get, so I'll get rid of this if error, and then this stuff at the end too. All right, so now I'm going to run if. And there is a logical test for us now that we have a helper cell to determine whether we should run the formula. Now, I'm going to say relative cell reference. If you're greater than that count, F4, that's going to give us a true when we're past row 1008, comma, then what do we want? Past 1008, we want double quote, double quote. That's a null text string, the syntax for show nothing, comma. Otherwise, run the formula. So right now, it'll have to run the formula 1008. Control Shift Enter. Double click and send it down. However, if I come up here and select Mixed Model Analysis, there's only 48. And right down here, in this cell, it didn't run the value if false. It ran only this simple cell-to-cell logical test and then dumped a double quote in. So that's why you just flat out, for almost all data extraction array formulas that I've seen, you want to run the if with some other logical test instead of the if error. Get the book, and it shows you a great example of like VLOOKUP as an example of a function where if error is fine, because you have to run the VLOOKUP in every cell to determine whether there's an error. All right, we'll see you next trick.